The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it's Monday in the Riv. And
we have a small programming note.
Programming note, yes.
At 6 o'clock this evening here on Channel 95, also on Facebook Live, will be North Pole Live, which is Santa's coming to our studio. And as we know, by looking at our studio, the Christmas paper abounds. They haven't finished setting up yet, but they're going to be coming down here after our show to set up. You'll be able to call in with your children. They can call into the show and ask Santa any questions and ask for what they'd like to get. The number tonight will be 508-730-3222. It'll be on the TV. It'll be on the screen throughout the show. Please participate. It's a lot of fun. Or if you'd like, you can come directly down to the studio. There'll be events and activities for the children here at the studio. There'll also be some snacks and food. So
let's hope the weather cooperates.
Exactly.
But the stockings are hung by the chimney with care.
And we do have a place.
We know that St. Nicholas will be here. So
and we have a place. We definitely have a place for that.
Yeah, if you can, and you have children who want to see Santa, by all means, please avail yourself of this.
It's a great event. I've helped out a couple of years, and it's a little tight this year because our station manager Keith is off for the week. Talk about a long-term vacation. That's a long weekend. But Keith has a lot of time that he has to use, otherwise he'll lose it before the end of the year. So we don't want to take away his time, that's for sure. So,
yeah.
Well, what did you think about this snow?
Yeah.
The weather was terrible. We already, the typical first accidents with the first snow all happened. There was even an injury on the Braga Bridge. People, you need to drive carefully. No, you really do. I know.
There's accidents virtually every other day on 24 when the weather's good.
When the weather's good. And that's what makes it bad. I mean, because there was an accident on 24 also yesterday. I believe that was in the Tiverton area. So it's, it gets a little tough. And tonight we're going to get more snow, as you said.
Yeah, I really didn't pay attention this
They're saying
morning.
Another 1 to 3 inches.
Yeah, I know, but I think actually with us now, they moved the line over. It's 3 to 6.
That's possible.
We're kind of right on a bubble between 1 to 3 and 3 to 6. Mm-hmm. So I'm hoping we're going to go closer to
1 to 3
or 3 if we're going to get either one of those bands. But it's an inexact science. Great job. You can be wrong all the time and they don't
still make $150,000 a year.
It's wonderful. So. Well, I see we have one article here. I'm sure this is near and dear to your heart. Why supervised drug injections make sense? Well, they make sense to this congressman, but I know one of these lines when I was reading this article will really get you, but addiction is also a disease, and I know that you got a few things to say about that one, CJ.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I still can't. Diabetes is a disease. Cancer is a disease.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And I have a problem because we can give Narcan for free to all these people, but we can't give insulin for free to diabetics.
Yeah, and look, what disturbs me about this is that all they know how to do in this case, and as I said, this has been a problem since the late 60s, early 70s, and it's only gotten worse because of this attitude of enablement. So first we started with methadone. Now they're going to give them Narcan to bring them back. Now we're going to have supervised injection sites so we can give them Narcan. And who pays for this? We do. Yeah, they are addicts, and whether it's I agree with you, but I don't have the medical credentials you do. All I know is an addiction to me is something basically that you do. You have a choice in that matter. Even though you crave it, you have a choice. A disease is something you have no choice. If you get cancer, you didn't go down to the local, the local pharmacy and say, "Oh, can I have a case of cancer? Or can I have multiple sclerosis or something like that?" Those are diseases. This is crap. This is a money-making thing, and it continues to make billions. Now they want to throw more money at the problem rather than, going down there and wiping out the cartels in Mexico, have strict enforcement, and throw every drug dealer in jail for 25 to life. What they do in other countries, and they control this.
Yeah.
But it's always the poor me syndrome, guilt everybody into bankrupting the country. And the reality is, listen, I'm an addict too. I love sugar. But that's not a disease. Oh, maybe it is now. So if I talk to enough shrinks, they may start classifying. If all the sugar addicts like me who love Coca-Cola, pastry, ice cream, and everything sugar, refined sugar, which is the worst thing for you, maybe we can get a lobby. Maybe we can, instead of having a methadone clinic, we can have a Hostess cupcake clinic with ice cream, and we can get that stuff when we're having a sugar withdrawal. But look, these programs, and it just keeps getting worse, because I still haven't seen a definitive amount of money of how much Narcan money we've spent. We saw the pharmaceutical and this is the same congressman that's sitting his fat butt in a seat in Congress and allowing pharmaceutical companies to jack up the price of insulin for you and jacking up the price of Narcan after they made it mandatory to start giving Narcan to people.
That's right.
And so I don't have any sympathy for this guy. This guy is, he has no grasp on reality because he's a congressman.
And the worst part about it is, and he says it in this article, this is an opinion piece, okay?
Yeah.
He wrote, this is his opinion piece, and he says it, that the House and the Senate didn't do anything about the law to put a restriction on this. So when Philadelphia took this to the federal court system, the judge says there's nothing currently in the law which prevents you from doing it, and therefore it's not illegal. Therefore you can do it. So Philadelphia is doing it. Now what is very interesting is, and they use these statistics, and lies, damn lies, and statistics. They say that this will avert between 1 and 18 cases of HIV per year. It will avert between 15 and 213 cases of hepatitis C every year. And it will prevent between 27 and 76 deaths annually. I love the way they can predict these numbers already.
Yeah.
And nothing's happened.
And how many other deaths are going to be peripheral that aren't in there because they're going to get that? They're going to get the drug cheaper somewhere else, and they're going to end up laced with fentanyl.
Now this is where this comes in. They say that there is no effect on crime stats, except in one instance, the crime stats went up.
Yeah.
And they said that's because the police decided to start arresting more people for dealing drugs. They're dealing the drugs right outside the safe
they said
site.
There's no violation of the law. These people are taking illegal drugs.
Right.
They're in there injecting drugs that there is a federal law against.
That's right.
But there's no, this is the problem. We got appointed judges, liberal judges, that are going to now say, okay, and then a conservative judge will have a different opinion. And this is the problem. Throw money at everything. Never look at, if you want to play golf and you got a choice of taking lessons from Tiger Woods or your buddy who shoots 187 instead of 69, who are you going to go to? So these people are going to just throw money. How much money are we going to throw? Has it cured the problem since 1970? No. We've thrown trillions, not billions, trillions of dollars into this enablement system. First it was, here's your brain on drugs, don't get busted for drugs, enforcement. Now it's like, okay, let's just throw in the towel and say, if you want to be a junkie, the taxpayer's going to pay to keep you alive as long as humanly possible till you finally do OD.
See, they're basing their studies on this all out of Vancouver, which is where the first...
Where you made a...
Where I made my plea. Where I made my plea.
presentation.
Yes. And the interesting thing is, they said that Vancouver's saving $14 million over 10 years. That must be a calculation, because...
Yeah, you know, look, you remember the old adage, figures don't lie, but
liars can figure. Exactly.
But the fact is, look.
And then they use, but before you go on, then they use that, wouldn't Boston like to have an extra $10 million? Because that's how much Boston's going to save. They already know how much Boston's going to save.
Everybody's going to save $1 zillion, this guy pushing it. But let's just get down to the bottom line.
And even if they save it, they'll spend it.
Because I actually just saw a program the other day talking to some drug counselor, and they made a statement that I don't think anybody's going to refute. And they may. I mean, one of these, they'll come up with some convoluted thing that says that these people aren't right, even though virtually everybody I've ever spoken to, whether they're an alcoholic or any addiction, said one thing. All the Narcan in the world, all the injection sites in the world are not going to cure them. They're going to stay drug addicts until they don't want to be drug addicts themselves.
That's right.
So I think we've proven statistically, because they're talking about how difficult it is to get anybody clean and keep them clean, that the vast majority of people are going to stay drug addicts. So again, this is a waste of the taxpayers' money. Because you know something? You can say I'm cruel because, but you're not saving a life. You're prolonging someone who is existing from fix to fix. And that's the majority of cases. And that's what I submit to you. I submit that this is not helping to any degree. Because if an individual wants to get off drugs, they can walk into a rehab clinic and they can get themselves clean, and then it's up to them to stay clean. It's a proven fact. Talk to anybody. Talk to anybody about it. So what do you do with these programs? Narcan, injection sites, free drugs, this, then that. You let them stay junkies and live for a long time, and the collateral damage is their families have to suffer with them because they steal from their own families. They drive, you know, just the fact that the condition they're in psychologically destroys their families and sometimes rips families apart. So, you know, forgive me, this is one subject that, I've been here since the beginning of the drug crisis, and all I've ever seen the government do is what it does best, throw money at it. So, but this is the society we're in, CJ. And like I said, isn't this ironic that this is coming out of Canada, and you're the guy that went up and made a presentation to the entire nation of Canada?
I pled my case. I pled my case.
You pled your case.
And the interesting thing is, it's a United States congressman using Canadian statistics to prove his point.
Yeah, but they won't let us use Canadian drugs.
Exactly. I was just going to say the same thing.
You know, I mean, talk about, you know how you can tell this guy's lying?
His
He's
lips
a
are moving.
politician. You know how you can tell he's a hypocrite? Because he's a politician. He doesn't care.
No, because he's got good health care. He's got a good pay.
That's right.
He doesn't have to worry about anything for the rest of his life.
He's got the greatest health care system in the world. He's not paying what you're paying for insulin. If he needs insulin, he's getting it for free. Getting it for free.
Yeah. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. And this is what disturbs me when I see stuff like this. This guy, what he wants to do is make a name for himself.
Yeah, and that's exactly what he's trying to do.
And that's what he's looking at.
Yeah.
So he's got all these statistics, like you said. Where do they come from? That's like listening to Kathy Ann and Mary Sahadi spout numbers in front of
Well,
the
and the
council.
sa- and the same-
Any similarity between reality and the numbers is purely coincidental.
But the thing is, he's also saying that, in Philadelphia, which just started this program, he's already got statistics for them.
Yeah, oh,
I'm
yeah.
like, how can you have statistics for them already? And then he says, he turns around and he says, well, the numbers aren't here, and the numbers, it's like talking out of both sides of your face at the same time. And, I don't have a choice, by the way. I can't turn around and go to a rehab facility and become not a diabetic anymore. So,
Yeah, well, sugar, I mean, like I said, these addictions are something you have to be willing to do. It's like my sugar addiction.
take you to Greg's.
Can I say no to Greg's chocolate cake? No. But I'm fully aware that it's up to me to say no. But I go in there and I knowingly make the choice to eat chocolate cake.
And apple strudel.
And I accept the responsibility. You can call me a sugarholic, and I am. And I will, and sometimes I can go periods of time without eating sugar and pastry and ice cream. But that's only when I'm not near an ice cream stand or Greg's or any place that sells pastry.
Especially
'Cause
Greg's apple
I
strudel.
realize that the only way I can control that is not have it in the house and not be near any place that sells it.
Exactly. Except your apple strudel,
The apple strudel with raisins. Gee, I might drive up there after the show. Don't tempt me. But we're talking about this how ridiculously enabling and politically correct the society has become. I saw a piece on a media outlet. They were interviewing millennials, asking them about Thanksgiving. It was the most. It was a yin and a yang. It was the most nauseating experience I had ever seen, and at the same time, it was hysterical. They had a news person walk up and ask people Thanksgiving questions. First one he hit is two young male millennials. Oh, I don't know. Well, whatever, millennials. They haven't decided their sexuality yet, so I don't want to go there. But they said, when did the Pilgrims come to Plymouth? And the kid immediately, he knew it. He said, "Oh, I know that one. In 1992, Columbus sailed the ocean blue." Well, number one, the Pilgrims weren't on a Nina and a Santa, and a Santa Maria. They needed a Pinto and a Santa Maria, Pinta and a Santa Maria, But in 1992, so I guess the Revolutionary War was in 1996. And then they asked somebody else, they said, where did the Pilgrims come from? They asked a few people. The closest one came was Europe, and then he had to tell her that Europe wasn't a country. But all the rest had China, South America, Mexico. I mean, it's horrifying.
And this is the education system we have, which is a great lead into what I was going to go into.
It's a horrifying, but I got to get the last one and the best one.
All right.
They said, the last question was, what did they eat on Thanksgiving? And who did they eat with? And the answer was, well, lobster and seafood, I think.
Close.
And he said, and then he said, well, who did they have the first Thanksgiving dinner with? And you know what her answer was? The Americans.
Well, she wasn't wrong there. They were Native Americans.
Yeah, but she didn't even realize.
I know that.
She
I know.
thought the Pilgrims were Martians that invaded from another planet.
Well,
but I mean, when you see stuff like that, it's really it's funny in a nauseating way, but it's horrifying. And I think that's one of the reasons the country's as screwed up as they are. They can't understand and vote properly because fundamentally they're morons. They
Well-
know nothing except what did that one who got caught in the school controversy. She's got 20 million followers, and all she does is say what makeup to use. I like to use this sparkle on. Say, oh, thank you for being with me. I'm only going to go to college to party. And this is what they do with their time. They don't know they don't know fundamental physics. They don't know fundamental civics. They don't know fundamental anything. They can't do math without a calculator. They're basically helpless. That's all they are.
And it's no wonder why our school superintendent's only proficient, because I read over the weekend that President Obama's biggest failure was the Common Core education thing. It's an education program that teaches directly to the test. And it was supposed to increase scores. And what it actually did was it decreased scores, and it made the disparity between middle-class people and lower class or low-income people and minorities wider. So this is Common Core, which I've spoken against Common Core I don't know how many times, but the states, 45 states signed on to it, and their scores went into the toilet. And those states which give voucher programs, because I'm a supporter of voucher programs, were forced to have their students use Common Core, because if they didn't, they would lose the ability to take vouchers. Guess what happened to their test scores? Their grades right down. And this is a problem, because when you can't do a math problem that says 2 times 2 is 4, and you've got to go 2 times 5 is 10, minus this, minus that, and then you get 4. I got a problem with that.
Well, yeah, but the reality is that you can't, if you study to take a test, all you're doing is memorizing parts of something.
Exactly.
You're not learning it. You don't learn mathematics by memorizing a couple of formulas that are going to be on an exam. You don't learn how to read by memorizing words. I once told, I saw an actual case of this. When I first got on the fire department, they had a guy that had virtually, I guess that was, everybody's got their own little thing they use to occupy their minds. He virtually memorized the definition of every word in the dictionary. That's what he did.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it was impressive. You know, not every word, because there's, but I mean, a lot. Give you the, noun, pronoun,
Yeah.
blah, 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 derivation, blah, blah, and a definition. But there was only one problem. He was a classic case of just studying something and not learning it. There's a difference between studying it and preparing for a test and actually understanding the subject, which is why colleges stopped giving essay exams, because you actually had to know what you were talking about if you had to write an essay
Exactly.
on a subject.
Yeah.
Now, if you can pick A, B, C, D, or none of the, or E, well, you can guess your way to a passing score. And then they can stick in a curve to make more people pass. But this is the problem. I was sitting downstairs with this guy one day, and we began to talk. And he got into a word, and and then I asked him, and I've got a fairly good vocabulary. Okay, so I asked him the definition of a pretty, a pretty rarely used word. I forgot exactly what it was, but it was one of those sesquipedalians that you only see, when somebody's trying to appear pedantic, so to throw that out there, but he knew the definition. And then he was exposed, because right after he defined it, and he was pretty close, good, just about on, you could say, okay, it was acceptable even on Jeopardy. I said, use it in a sentence. Forget about it. Couldn't use it in a sentence. And I looked at him, and I said, you know what you are? He said, what? I said, you're a vast cesspool of knowledge. because it's just sitting there, turning to feces.
That's
because it's what good is it to know a word and not be able to use it? The reason that you learn words and expand your vocabulary is to be able to use a word rather than write a sentence. If you can describe something with a word or two because your vocabulary is better, that's one of the reasons you develop a vocabulary. But this whole situation of preparing people to pass just an exam is not learning. It's rote memorization. You don't learn anything unless you actually learn about it. When you get history, it's like memorizing dates. If you had a good American history teacher, he made history come alive. If you had a good history teacher, history is one of the most interesting subjects you'll ever take because you can learn from history well taught. But if you ever had a history teacher that had you memorize, it wasn't 1992, it was 1492, and memorize dates, it was the most boring subject you ever took. And that's what's happened. Our educational system is kowtowing to the millennials. They don't want to stress them out. It's amazing. Students in the old days were held to actually know things. They were under a lot of stress because if they came home and said the teacher disciplined them, their parents would discipline them. Today, if they come back and say the teacher looked cross-eyed at them, the parents are on their way to a lawyer's office to sue the educational system. And look at the result. I can give you a couple offhand examples. AOC. You listen to her speak for 10 minutes and tell me you're convinced that she actually got through college. I'm not. So that's my rant on education.
Well, there's nothing that says a politician has to go to college.
That's true.
Because even if they did, they're still stupid.
Well, I think the best example of this is when you look at somebody like this, and 90% of the people in Congress are lawyers. Lawyers, and they all, virtually 95% of them have degrees. Many of them are lawyers. And then you look at one of the most brilliant presidents we ever had in the history of this nation, a man who wrote speeches that live today. The most prominent that people remember is the Gettysburg Address. Abraham Lincoln didn't go to school. He was self-taught. He read. He learned. He became a lawyer. He was self-educated, as many people were. Many of the greatest minds in the history of this world were self-educated. So, when I see this, it's like, and our superintendent was considered, what was the euphemism they used?
Proficient?
Proficient. Okay, that's up to whoever bestowed that on him, the school committee, but I would find it hard if I was sitting on a school committee looking at a superintendent whose educational system was just disemboweled by the state and say he's proficient.
Well, interestingly
I
enough,
would say, well, I want to hear why we are where we are, and I want to know what you're doing for it. And if he gave me a logical plan of how he was going to undo the fact that we have gotten worse, I might give him a vote. But otherwise, I don't think I'd give him a vote.
well, as I said, interestingly enough, there's only one level higher, which is exemplary.
Yeah.
And that's based on DESE rubrics that they created, which when I was reviewing them, made it seem extremely simple.
Well, remember who were giving this out, politicians, and remember, Sharon Skeels got a 5% outstanding performance pay addition to her salary the year that she testified under oath that she mishandled over $2 million of money. So
that works for me.
Yeah, but that's the great thing. When you work for politicians, you get rewarded when you do things wrong, too.
That's it. Hey, everybody, we'll see you on Wednesday. Have a great day and drive safe.